Hello, I'm John Bachman and welcome to Newsmax TV. Right now we're talking to Bill Donohue. He is the president of the Catholic League for Religious and Civil Rights. He's also the publisher of The Catalyst, the Journal of the Catholic League. He's also the author of several books, including the recently released Why Catholicism Matters: How Catholic Virtues Can Reshape Society in the 21st Century. Dr. Donohue, it's great talking with you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, first, your book offers the four cardinal virtues: prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance as the best way to cure society's ills. Now, these are not new ideals, so why is this book so important now and relevant today?
Well, for one thing, we've had a lot of negative news about the Catholic Church over the last decade, some of it admittedly self-generated. A lot of it, however, has been media-generated. And we have a whole generation of young people growing up who are basically ignorant of the great strengths and contributions of the Catholic Church. We also have a number of Catholics who have left the faith, or maybe they have one foot out the door. This is a way of trying to bring them back in. And I never want to forget the base. That is to say, practicing Catholics who need to be emboldened and have the intellectual ammunition to answer our adversaries. So what this book tries to do is to talk about the strengths and the contributions of the Catholic Church from time immemorial, basically.
You say in this book it's meant to be a corrective, and you just spoke to that fact, to much of the negative attention focused on the Catholic Church in the last decade. But some of your critics say that you seem to be taking a softer, more positive tone in this book compared to some of your other works. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I think to some extent that's true. I mean, people think that I've gone soft. I think they want to reconsider. No, I was just recently called the Rottweiler's Rottweiler. I guess I'll take that. The book itself, however, it is true. It is unlike the work I do at the Catholic League to the extent that I am somewhat of an attack dog for the Catholic Church against our adversaries. However, the reason why I feel so passionate in defense of the Catholic Church is precisely because I think that the Catholic voice matters. No, so this is the other side of the Catholic League, if you will. Here I'm trying to demonstrate all the great contributions and strengths of the Catholic Church. It explains why we do what we do with the Catholic League. I mean, we're defending what I consider to be the most seminal voice in terms of society's good that exists out there in human history.
You write that some of the most important positive aspects of Catholic Church teachings are constantly overlooked, and you say, I've heard you talk about the things like the Catholic Church's role in establishing universities and the Catholic Church's role in establishing freedom, but what would you say is the most important Catholic ideal that the media and lawmakers in Washington constantly overlook?
Well, I think that when I talk about the teleology, or the natural outgrowth, or the end line of Catholic teaching being the focus on the other. I mean, the Catholic teaching is always directed away from the individual and towards someone else. When we talk about rights, we don't talk about them in isolation to responsibilities. When we talk about helping people, that's obviously a concern for the dispossessed. And we use reason in pursuit of truth. I am so sick and tired of hearing people say, oh, the Catholic Church has all these ideas, they don't believe in reason. Reason in pursuit of truth is what led the great Catholics in our history to establish the first universities. It wasn't the Romans, it wasn't the Greeks. It was the role of the Catholic Church in the scientific revolution that played such a seminal role. The Catholic Church in so many different ways, not just in morality and helping the poor, but in terms of art and architecture and music in so many different ways. Indeed, Western civilization is unintelligible without the great growth of Christianity. That's basically my message.
And I want to shift back to some of the media attention that's been focused on the Catholic Church. You know, if you pay attention to the established media, as I like to call them, you mostly, or should I say overwhelmingly, hear about things like the sex abuse scandal, and more recently these leaks coming out of the Vatican. Is the Catholic Church taking the right steps now to convince the critics and the skeptics that it truly does hold the moral high ground?
Well, I think more can be done, but I do think there's a major shift that's taken place in the episcopate. To be specific, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, one might argue that the bishops collectively were not as strong in exercising their moral voice as they are today. But now the scandal is long behind us. I want to make that very clear. That occurred between 65 and 85. I know about recent cases in Philadelphia. They're about old cases that took place. We don't have that problem in the Catholic Church today, thank God. We've made the necessary reforms. But my point is this, that you have a whole generation of people out there, they don't understand the good things that have taken place in the Catholic Church. There are a lot of people in the media who are skeptical. Well, listen, we've got Archbishop Dolan, Cardinal Dolan, not only the Archbishop in New York, but he's also heads the Bishops' Conference. Not just Cardinal Dolan, but a whole new crop of bishops, many of them appointed by this Pope, Benedict XVI, who are much more vocal, much more assertive, and much more orthodox. I think that the Obama administration, to give you one example, has been totally clueless. If they had some practicing Catholics working for them in high positions, maybe they wouldn't have been caught off guard by the aggressive response, and I'm so pleased about it, by today's bishops.
And we'll talk about that more in just a second, but I also want to continue talking about this book, and I recently saw a speech that you gave, and you said that you would rather coach a high jumper to help him or her get over the bar instead of lowering the bar, and you mentioned about trying to bring some of the Catholics who have one foot out the door back into the church. But what are we supposed to take away from your statement? Do you believe that a stricter, less inclusive church is really a better church, a church unwilling to compromise with those wanting to compromise their faith?
Yeah, I don't believe in compromise. I mean, make that very, very clear. You don't compromise on the Trinity. You don't compromise on Jesus' divinity, and you don't compromise on certain things which the Pope, John Paul II, has said is off limits for discussion, which is women's ordination. Now, if people don't like that, we live in a free society. Practice diversity. You can join the mainline Protestants. They're loving to have you. Since the numbers are going south, there are people who say the Catholic Church should accept two men getting married. You can leave. You can join the United Church of Christ. They believe in that. You know, there's all kinds of places for people who think that abortion is a human right as opposed to the violation of a human right. You can join, again, the mainline Protestants. They have no problem with these things. But to stay in the Catholic Church and say that we're wrong and you, the voice of dissidents, is right, no, I think that's asking for too much. Now, can we compromise on those areas where we're not in the area of dogma, such as celibacy, which is a self-imposed discipline? They may want to rethink that. I don't know. What's the best way to help the poor? We can have an honest agreement or disagreement on the best way to do it. But there are certain fundamentals which we cannot compromise on. And if that means a smaller church, I say go for it.
And I want to talk about that New York Times piece, which called you the Rottweiler in reference to the term often used to describe the Pope, who was called the God's Rottweiler. They made the assessment in that piece that some of these Catholics who are not fully committed should in fact leave the church. And to follow up on our last question, do you agree with that?
Well, yes. I mean, for example, there's been a nun, she's been all over TV, claiming that she wants all these extra rights, and she's as much a part of the Catholic Church as those people who are Orthodox. This same nun prayed for the death of John Paul II a few years back. There are people in the Catholic Church who are so far gone who have actually been involved in lawsuits against the Catholic Church in an amicus capacity to try and strip it of its tax-exempt status. Now, if you're that far gone, then do the honest thing and get out. I am not saying, I want to be clear about this, that Catholics who wrestle with one teaching or another, and that would be virtually everybody, if they want to be honest, all right, there's a lot of teachings there, it's not easy. I am not saying that because people would have a problem with one teacher or another, therefore they should exit the church. And I don't want the fidelity cops at my church door giving me a quiz or asking me, am I loyal about this or that? I think that's insane also. All I'm saying is this, the people at the fringe, at the extremes, at the margins, who are saying the Catholic Church has to change on abortion and same-sex marriage and the like, either that or we're going to continue to erode its authority. They're the real problems. Those are the ones I'm talking about. I'm not talking about people who moderately disagree. I'm talking about the extremists. There's no place for these people in the Catholic Church.
Well, it does seem like the Catholic Church has played a more prominent role in this election cycle, especially with things like the HHS mandate in this election cycle than in the last few. Do you agree with that? And if so, why do you think that is?
Two reasons. Number one, look what's happening. We never had a president in the history of the United States who ever threatened to have the state encroach on religion. President Obama has redefined the Catholic religion as that entity which hires and serves people mostly of their own faith. That, of course, is a prostitution of the term Catholic. The word Catholic means universal. We don't put signs in our hospitals saying no Jews need apply. We don't put signs in our schools saying no Protestants need apply. We are proud to serve people who are not of our faith. We are proud to hire people who are not of our faith in the schools and the social service agencies and the like. So here we have unprecedented assault trying to ask us to pay as nonprofits for abortion-inducing drugs in our insurance plans. We've never seen anything like it. That accounts for one of the differences. The other difference, of course, is today's crop of bishops, led by Cardinal Dolan. You've got people like Archbishop Lurie in Baltimore, Cardinal Wuerl in Washington, O'Malley in Boston, of course, Dolan, as I've said here. You got Chaput in Philadelphia, and a whole crew of bishops down south in the Midwest, out in the West Coast. Gomez in Los Angeles, Corleone out in the West Coast, Morlino in the Midwest. I can go on and on. We've got people today who are basically holding up a big stop sign. They're saying enough is enough. And you put that together with the war on religion exercised by the Obama administration, there's your answer.
Well, your book certainly makes a strong case for Catholicism in the 21st century. Bill Donohue, the new book is called Why Catholicism Matters. It's available now on Amazon.com and in bookstores. Bill, it's been great talking with you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.